Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss how both excitement and fear are triggered when thinking about retirement.
And on our Coach's Corner, we want to discuss the 5 psychological phases of retirement and what each one means to you.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to discuss how to create a written retirement plan to overcome those psychological phases of retirement.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better.
You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches.
I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and applied them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome in to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we want to discuss what can trigger both excitement and fear.
That's right, Wendy. There are a few things that happen in our lives that can trigger both fear and excitement. I think back on my 46 years of life, and a few of those would be when I graduated from college. I had to enter the real world, and it was very exciting to know that I would finally be on my own, but also very scary in that I had to pay my own bills and make my own way and really be completely self-sufficient. Another would be when my wife and I had our first child, first of 4. Very exciting that we now have a family and a life that we created, but very scary knowing if we make a mistake, we could really screw him up. And another one that we see every day in our practice is retirement. No other stage in life triggers such intense feelings of excitement and liberation, but on the other hand, fear and anxiety. Retirement for many people requires a leap of faith after decades of routine. You're not simply at work Friday doing your job, then all of a sudden you're retired on Monday dancing for joy. Though retirement is a major transition that unfolds over many years as we move from the life we know into the life we will get to know. Many pre-retirees do not fully comprehend how dramatically their lives will change. So today, we want to dive into the mindset of retirement, both before and during retirement.
Okay, so this is so appropriate. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but my youngest child graduated from high school this weekend. Okay, so talk about a transition. I am looking at empty nesterness, if that's a word. I can't believe it. Talk about a transition. I feel like, some days I'm happy about that. Some days I'm not so happy about that. We'll see when the summer ends. But it's going to be a huge transition. And then it makes me think that retirement is even closer than I ever imagined. So, wow, got to deal with a lot of these things. It's not easy, though.
It's not easy. It's a big change. And it's something, like you said, it doesn't just happen. It's automatically going to be a certain way. It's going to be a matter of time. And that's what we're going to talk about today with retirement. It's not like I'm done today, now I'm retired, now everything's changed. It's going to be a progression, and that's what we're going to talk about today is, number one, psychologically, the different phases of retirement, what you have to think about, but also, with your monies. How am I going to make sure that this money lasts throughout the rest of my life? So it's not only a mental thing, but also it's part of your checkbook and making sure that everything is set up properly so you can have a comfortable retirement. Just like you said, now empty nester, now you got to be thinking about retirement. What am I going to do now that I don't have to raise those kids? Because you've been doing that for 20, 30 years, and all of a sudden here you are. Now it's the next phase of your life.
It's all still about saving money so that it's there when I need it. And that's why I have you.
That's right.
We're going to talk about that coming up on the show. When we return on the Coach's Corner, we want to discuss those 5 psychological phases of retirement and what each one means to you. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your monies that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement.
The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today, in the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss the 5 psychological phases of retirement and what each one means to you. A lot going on in the head.
A lot going on in the head, and transitioning to retirement from your working years is tough. A few of you know exactly what retirement looks like. However, most retirees figure it out as they go, and a lot of people we meet with, Wendy, on a regular basis in our practice are not psychologically ready to retire. A lot of you, your job is your identity. A few of the experts on this subject, Nancy Schlossberg and Kevin Dykewalt, have written books on this very subject. One of those is called Age Wave, and I encourage you to check it out. And in the book, Mr. Dykewalt talks about the 5 phases of retirement, which we are going to discuss today. Unfortunately, today, most people spend more time planning for a wedding or a vacation than they do for retirement. And it's very important to think about your identity after retirement, because your identity that you had at work when you retire is gone. Think about it, Wendy. One of the first things we do when we meet somebody for the first time, after a few questions, we ask them what, or they ask us what. What do you do for a living? What's your profession, right? Yeah. So that's your identity. For 30 to 40 years, that's been your identity. And when that is gone, you have to find a new reason to get out of bed, to get excited about life. And I tell our clients all the time that you have to retire to something, not from something.
You know, Chad, that's probably the best point I think that we can make today, is kind of having something when you're working and you have those goals, that it comes to retirement and knowing those goals and clearly defining those goals. It's going to make you happy. It's going to make you driven to actually be able to retire to those goals, as opposed to retiring and then not knowing what you're going to do.
All right, well, let's jump into this because this is going to be good. The first psychological phase of retirement
is imagination.
Okay.
You know, 5 to 15 years before retirement, according to Ken Dykewalt, co-author of The Age Wave, the first phase is called imagination. This is 5 to 15 years prior to retirement, ages 50 to 60, and retirement is still years away. But during this stage, people have a very positive view about retirement. Only 44% say they are on track, though, in terms of preparation. It's kind of like, Wendy, what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Now you're an empty nester. Now, because you had kids in school, you really weren't thinking about it, but all of a sudden now it's come full circle, and now you're kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now you're starting to think about retirement. So you are in the imagination phase.
I am. I didn't know that, but now I do.
Well, and I think the imagination phase, you know, people are still pretty excited, and they see it in the future. They know there's maybe some things that they've got to also continue to prepare for, but they feel like there's plenty of time to do some of that.
And that's exactly how I feel, so it must be true. All right, we have a second phase, though, to talk about. What's that?
The second phase is anticipation, 3 years to retirement. This is what we call about pre-retirees. This is when it's getting close. And as retirement draws closer, positive emotions are on the rise, with 80% saying they will be able to achieve their dreams in retirement. However, in the 2 years prior to retirement, worry and anxiety creep in, with 22% of people saying they will feel a sense of loss after their working years are over. And this is where not only changes to your mindset need to occur, but also your investments. And this is the biggest thing, Chad, is really changing that mindset as you get closer to retirement. Your mindset, but also you have to start insulating your portfolio from a downturn in the market as well.
Yeah, and this is probably the biggest disconnect that we see, and people coming into our office, you know, seeing retirement in 3 to 5 years from now, and they, number one, they haven't built a game plan at all, and number two, the way they're thinking and viewing their investments and their retirement dollars how they're invested is a big disconnect. So this is a big area of focus that we need to kind of be addressing on a daily basis.
Okay, so that's the anticipation phase. What comes after that?
Here we are. We're at retirement. It's called liberation. Year one of retirement. This is a time of great excitement, relief, and enthusiasm. And 78% of people say they are enjoying retirement a great deal. But similar to a honeymoon, the feeling of liberation is short-lived as a new reality soon begins to set in. And there's several types of retirees in this phase, and I'm going to talk about a few of them. So you have your adventurers who shake things up. You have your searchers who are looking to fit in. You have your easy gliders who live one day at a time. You have your involved spectators who are still connected to their careers. And of course, the retreaters, those who pause to regroup or essentially don't leave their rocking chair. And these are the people that we're talking about. Their whole goal is to get to retirement. Once they get there, they don't have that plan beyond retirement. And that's so important to have today.
Well, and you talked about having your own identity while you're working, and I think you have to also have clarity of what that identity is going to be for you in retirement. And that's what we're kind of talking about here, is know which one of those types of retirees you want to be.
All right, so after that liberation phase comes reorientation. Now, what is this phase?
So that's after you've been retired. The honeymoon's over, 3 years post-retirement. During reorientation, many say the joy of retirement is past. Now the feelings of emptiness, worry, and boredom kick in. This is the time to reinvent yourself and pursue what you've always wanted to do but never dared to chase. Maybe it's taking up golf. Maybe it's traveling more. Maybe it's helping out at places like Habitat for Humanity, helping out at your local hospitals, really starting to get involved in the community. As Chad mentioned, it's all about getting to retirement, but then once you get there, now you're starting to get bored, and now it's when you really start to really think about what your lifestyle, hobbies, what are you going to do that makes you busy, that makes you want to get up every morning?
Well, and I think one of the best sayings that we continue to hear from our clients, and it's the greatest thing to hear from a retiree, is, when they come in for reviews, it's, Chad, I don't know how I worked. I'm busier now than I ever was when I was working. And that means they're enjoying retirement. They're doing some things. They're donating time, and they're actually doing what they want. And they've built that plan to be able to do so in retirement.
All right, and the last phase is reconciliation.
More than 15 years after retirement, so you've been retired a while. This phase is marked by increased contentment, acceptance, and personal reflection, what Chad was talking about. I'm very busy, I'm happy. People have come to terms with all that retirement has to offer. While there are lower levels of depression, some people report feelings of sadness as they confront the next phase of life, which is the time that we walk out on life, is the end of life. So those are the other issues, and those are the 5 phases that you need to understand as you get closer to retirement or once you do retire.
All right, some good information and things to think about. To download our free white paper today about why a second opinion is important when it comes to your retirement, visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. Coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to discuss how to create a written retirement plan to overcome the psychological phases of retirement. Stay with us.
Hey, let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this, or I didn't make this team.
Everybody in here.
That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back in, everyone, to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just went over the 5 psychological phases of retirement. Now we want to show you how to overcome those phases by building a written retirement plan.
It is important when you're planning for retirement that you actually have two plans. Number one, write down what a perfect retirement looks like for you. What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? Is it getting in the RV and traveling all over the country? Is it traveling maybe all over the world? Is it spending precious time with your kids and grandkids? Maybe it's having a second home in Florida or Arizona. Whatever it is, write it down. Once you have that written down, then we build number two part of the plan, which is to put together a written retirement plan that will allow you to do all of these things.
All right, so what should we do to give us peace of mind in retirement?
Well, the first thing we want to do, Wendy, is when it comes to building a written retirement plan, is constructing a framework for your retirement should start at least 3 to 5 years before your retirement date. Assessment and course correction occurs about a year before. A year or so after retirement, the honeymoon, as we've talked about before, the honeymoon period is over, will likely have gone away, and now it's time to review how things are going. Then give yourself another couple of years for retired life to become the new normal. And that is a 6 to 8 year journey that will require flexibility and resilience. And the key to all of it is you have to have a plan. And make sure also, which is very important, Wendy, make sure you work with a retirement specialist who can help you build that written plan.
All right, so that all makes a lot of sense, but exactly where do I start? And, you know, where does somebody who is even thinking about retirement, like in my phase, where do we even start to deal with some of these things?
Well, in order to build the plan, you have to understand that there's different phases of your financial life. And the first thing we want to talk about is you have to understand the three phases: the accumulation, preservation, and distribution. So you have to understand the first two, the accumulation versus the preservation phase of life. The accumulation, when you starts at about age 20 till you get to the point where you're about age 60, you're accumulating that wealth. But once you get to the point you're about 60, 62, then you're going to enter phase two. And as you get closer to retirement, as we talked earlier, about 3 to 5 years out, you have to start insulating your portfolio from a downturn in the market. And you need to understand also the vehicles that got you to retirement may not be the right ones that got you through them. Those accounts that you're pumping money into in your IRAs, your 401ks, and retirement accounts, Chad, are good vehicles to have when you're working. But when you get closer to retirement, if you continue to invest in the same vehicles that got you to retirement, once you retire, those could be the same vehicles that blow you up in retirement.
Yeah, and I think that's what we see so often. People coming in, you know, they're getting closer to retirement. We give them a good stress test of their overall portfolio. We look at the amount of risk they're taking, and they're taking on a lot more risk than what they're telling us that they're comfortable taking on at this phase of their life. And they're just investing too aggressively. They're still investing like they're working and saving, and they've got another 20 years of time horizon. And that's just the biggest disconnect that we see in this phase.
All right, so it's really very important to understand the difference between the accumulation and preservation phases of life, but what's next after that?
So once you build your written retirement plan and add protection to your portfolio, start insulating it from a downturn in the market, then you have to understand life changes, life happens, and you have to make adjustments to your plans as life changes. You want to make sure you make changes to that game plan as life happens. As we talked about, if the market takes a big hit, don't react or chase the market. Make sure you have a proactive game plan that downturns in the market are really baked into the plan. You understand over the next 25 to 35 years of retirement for you, the market's going to go up, the market's going to go down. We're going to have 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30% corrections, but you have to understand you can't react to the market, Chad. You want to build a game plan where you're proactive. We've already have those expectations baked in. Also, you have to understand the plan you build once you retire, it may change in 3 years, 5 years, so you have to be willing to kind of roll with the punches. But again, as we talked about, make sure you have that retirement specialist that has been there before with many other clients just like you, so they've seen what can happen 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we often talk about keeping things simple, and you know, as complex as this may sound, you know, it's really just identifying some of your goals and working with that specialist that, as Chad just mentioned, works day to day with people just like you that have some common goals for their money, some common risk goals, income needs in retirement. So, you know, this is a long journey, as Chad mentioned, through retirement, another 20, 30 plus years. And so you've got to be able to have that relationship with the specialist that's going to guide you through this longer journey.
It is a long journey, a very important one. And you folks at home may be working with someone already, but to download our free white paper today about why a second opinion is a really good idea, visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. When we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to help you prioritize exactly what you want your money to do for you in retirement.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri and in Illinois. So call now to get set up on that right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to help you prioritize exactly what you want your money to do for you in retirement. And as we talked about earlier on the show, we talk about the 3 phases of your financial life, and we all have 3 and only 3, which is the accumulation phase, the preservation phase, and of course, when we decide to walk out on life, is the distribution phase. And what you have to understand is you go from one phase to the other, you have to change your mindset, and also your investments have to change as well. So if we take a look here at someone that is between 20 and 60 years of age, you are in what's called that accumulation phase. It's all about growing your wealth, accumulating that wealth, so eventually you get to the point where you can retire. And what we talk about, Chad, are what are the top priorities for you at that time?
Well, and I think, the question we ask is, for our clients or for people that are, still in this accumulation phase is, what do you want your money to do for you? When you invest your money, what do you want your money to do? And this is kind of that priority list of what we hear. Naturally, grow is always number one, liquidity, reducing some taxes. In this accumulation phase, safety, income, and legacy is kind of bottom of the list, and that's what we often see.
And it should be about grow at all costs. The thing is, though, folks, when you get closer to retirement, when you get to the end of that accumulation phase, now you have to understand if you're 45 or 46 years of age like I am, and you lose 20 to 30% of your 401k, it's not a big deal because you have time to make up for those losses, but also you have that income coming in. But what you have to understand is you get closer to retirement and you get closer to that preservation phase, now you have to understand when you retire, you no longer have that income coming in. You no longer have that paycheck coming in. So now, if you lose 20 to 30% of your money, it is a pretty big deal, as well as you may have a lot less time, Chad, to make up for those losses.
Yeah, and I think that same question of we ask our clients that are now in this preservation phase, what do you want your money to do for you at this stage of your life? Their priorities change. And now all of a sudden, they need to know their income's coming in. They want safety of their money, and grow becomes number 3. Liquidity, taxes, and legacy kind of go to the bottom of the list. So as you can see here, these priorities have changed. Their mindset has changed about what they want their money to do for them, but so often we see the investments haven't changed.
Absolutely right. Grow is very important when you're working, but once you retire, it's more about holding on to what you have, making that 6 to 8% and not get blown up when the market goes down. And the other key thing, Chad, is we talked about is income. I think about my wife and I, the most important thing when I retire, I want to make sure we have plenty of income coming in to enjoy our lifestyle, to do what we want to do, to get us happy and successfully through retirement. At the end of life, when we get there, if we're all out of money, the legacy's really not that big a deal. We've taken care of our kids before and got them through college. So really the biggest thing is income. Also, to make sure that money lasts, though, you have to have safety of your principal. And of course, if this market continues to go up, we have to make sure that we have money there to keep up with the rate of inflation, to keep up with the cost of living. So you definitely have to have growth on that money. So this is very important. Unfortunately, Chad, as you mentioned, what we see today, though, is as you get closer to retirement, your mindset changes, but really your pocketbook and your investments don't change, and they have to.
Yeah, and I think as you see, what was important, early on in your life in that growth phase has now completely changed, and what is number one is no longer, or wasn't number one before.
Right. Do you know what psychological phase of retirement you are in? Do you need help building a written retirement plan to put your mind at ease in retirement? If so, we encourage you to give us a call today, and that's this week's Strategy Play.
Thank you, gentlemen. If you have any questions about today's show, or if you'd like for us to discuss a new topic, email us at askchad@slagelfinancial.com to have your questions answered on the show. We'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today.
Your host, the coach, Chad Slagle, and join
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
such short notice. Appreciate it.
Thanks. It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning. In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have
Now back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through
We
retirement.
are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Welcome back once again to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We have covered a lot today. What would you say are some of the key takeaways, Chad?
Number one, understand the 5 psychological phases of retirement and how they affect your mindset. And understand, it's not only about your checkbook, it's also about your mental health. Number 2, understand that the vehicles that got you to retirement may not be the same ones to get you through retirement. And number 3, make adjustments to your written retirement plan as life changes, and make sure you're working with a retirement specialist to help you every step of the way on this journey through retirement.
Some really good takeaways. Another reminder to download our free white paper today about why a second opinion is important. Visit slagelfinancial.com/empoweryou. And we also have some great events. The Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have these educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.
Clothing for the Chad Slagle Show is provided by AL Custom Clothiers, a custom men's clothier that understands the value of offering our customers the best for less. ALCustomClothiers.com or 314-570-6000.